Hello everybody and welcome back to Zooming into Scripture. So I first want to thank everybody for the overwhelming support on the last video. I really wasn't expecting it to do as good as it did, and there was a lot of requests for a part 2, so I'm here to do just that. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to go check it out to get the full picture, but it is not necessary to watch that video first to understand this one. So I'll briefly summarize where we are at in history and the important people involved, as well as what the book of Daniel reports, and then show how archaeology later verified what the Bible had to say. So key people to know for this video would be 1. Belshazzar, who was confirmed to be real, even though heavily doubted by skeptics of the Bible, as shown in part 1. Also, I didn't mention this in the last video, but here's some food for thought for those skeptical of Daniel's authorship. Now that topic is a whole video on its own, so I'm just bringing this up because it relates to Belshazzar, so it's kind of on topic. So evidenceunseen.com notes this, quote, "Thus, the recording of Belshazzar helps to support an early dating of Daniel. After all, Belshazzar had fallen out of the historical memory of both Herodotus, I hope I'm saying that right, 5th century BC, okay, so 500 years before Christ, and Xenophon in the 4th century BC. This means that Daniel accurately mentioned the historical figure of Belshazzar when other historians didn't. This helps give credibility to the fact that Daniel was an eyewitness of the events in question. Think about it. If Daniel was writing in the 2nd century BC, then how did he correctly identify this historical detail when other historians admitted this for centuries before him?" End quote. So, if Daniel was written afterwards to make the prophecies look impressive, they would be getting the same faulty information. Only the book of Daniel had any information about Belshazzar until the Nabonidus cylinders were discovered in 1854. Just one piece of evidence that shows Daniel was written early. There's a lot more to say about the reliability of Daniel, and this is a pretty big topic, so I don't want to get into it in this video, but it's a little food for thought. Okay, so up next, second person you should know is Cyrus the Great, and we'll just tag on also Darius the Mede. And I'm going to expand, on both of these later. So just keep watching the video and you'll get more info. All right. So next up, we got Daniel. Now, Daniel, of course, wrote the book of Daniel. He's the one who deciphers the text on the wall for Belshazzar and many other things, if you're familiar with the book of Daniel. Okay. So those are basically all the people you're going to need to know. So let's get into the book of Daniel now. So Belshazzar, at the recommendation of the queen, which is his mother, summons Daniel to decipher the text on the wall. Daniel did this, and this is what the text read. So I'm not going to attempt to read the 3 words because I'm just going to embarrass myself. So I'll have them up on the screen, of course, and then I'll just read what it says. So, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. And sure enough, as the book of Daniel then goes on to say, that very night, Belshazzar, king of the Babylonians, was slain, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at age of 62. All right. So now we've kind of set the stage and we have the people. Let's look at some artifacts now that line and corroborate up with Daniel's account. So Daniel has Babylon falling and Belshazzar being slain that very night. Now keep this in mind. Remember that they were carelessly feasting and drinking only a short time before he was killed. So we have a bunch of people partying and they're not really concerned about anything that's going on around them until the writing appears on the wall. So now I'm going to quote from an archaeologist named Dr. Titus Kennedy, and I'm going to be quoting from his book, Unearthing the Bible, which is a fantastic resource. I would recommend it if you love archaeology in the Bible as much as I do. He lists 101 archaeological artifacts that have been discovered through the whole Bible. So like from the beginning to end. And he just goes and gives a brief description and its importance. And he has another book which I'm currently reading. I'm only about halfway through. It's Excavating the Evidence for Jesus, which I'd also recommend. And it's much more in depth and reads more like novelish, not like a novel, but there's a lot more words, okay? All right. So this is what he says about the events and the evidence. And I'm going to be quoting heavily from him because he's an actual archaeologist and he has a lot of good information. Okay, so this is what he says. The book of Daniel relates that Babylon was conquered, records that Belshazzar was slain, and then mentions Darius the Mede, rather than the Persian king Cyrus the Great ruling the city of Babylon, while no mention is made about a battle for the city. A uniform document recorded on a clay tablet and called the Nabonidus Chronicle corroborates that there was no battle for the city. It makes it clear that Cyrus was not leading the army at the capture of Babylon in 539 BC. Instead, a general from Mede led the Persian army to Babylon and subsequently ruled the city as governor. So here's what the Chronicle states. The army of Cyrus entered Babylon without battle. Afterwards, Nabonidus was arrested in Babylon when he returned there. And we know from part 1 that he was not in Babylon and he was co-regent with his son Belshazzar. Watch the first video. It explains all that. Okay. Then later, Cyrus entered Babylon. Green twigs were spread in front of him. And this is not the only outside evidence corroborating Daniel. I want to expand on this information from Kennedy with more information from evidenceunseen.com. And this really brings together how accurate the account is. Okay, so this is a start a quote. Daniel knew that Babylon fell instantaneously. The Nabonidus cylinder, the Cyrus cylinder, Herodotus, I'm going to struggle with that the whole video, and Xenophon claim that the Persians trampled the Babylonians without any serious fight. For instance, Herodotus in the 5th century BC records that Persian invaders entered Babylon where the Euphrates River used to be, but the water only came up to their thighs. Regarding the Babylonians, all this time they were dancing and celebrating a holiday which happened to fall then until they learned the truth only too well. So pause real quick. They were partying and completely unaware. This is exactly what Daniel has happening the very night Babylon fell and Belshazzar was slain. So then we have Xenophon in the 4th century BC records that the Persians rerouted the Euphrates River and the king was consequently killed. He also states the Persians invaded on a night of a certain festival had come around in Babylon, during which all Babylon was accustomed to drink and revel all night long. Cyrus told his men, "We are going to fall upon them at a time when many of them are asleep, many drunk, and none of them battle array. And when they find out we are inside the walls, in their panic and fright, they will be much more helpless than they are now." This fits the context of Daniel 5 being at a drunken party and fits the description of the Persians taking over and killing Belshazzar without a serious fight. Now this is important, and I want to emphasize this. When it says right here, did Daniel copy Xenophon and Herodotus? I'm so sorry. This doesn't fit the notion that Daniel knew Belshazzar's name. Now this is big because Belshazzar, as I've said before, was completely unknown in history except for Daniel. So if Daniel was written later and getting his information from these other historians, or be getting the same information, which had Nabonidus being the last king, and said nothing about Belshazzar. So this is very important, as it not only corroborates the whole account, but it also gives more evidence rather, that Daniel was an eyewitness. Now let's go back to Dr. Kennedy, and he continues regarding Darius the Mede. Now he says this, okay. The identity of Darius the Mede mentioned in Daniel has been puzzling, but the Nabonidus Chronicle and related cuneiform documents may illuminate the situation. As the general from Mede who led the army into Babylon, also apparently served a short tenure of no more than 4 years in Babylon before dying, since the cuneiform documents attest to another Persian official who ruled as governor of Babylon from 553 to 525 BC, perhaps Darius the Mede, who appears to have had a short rule and was already 62 years old when he took over Babylon, may have been the conquering general and initial governor of Babylon, noted in the Nabonidus Chronicle. So I want to mention before moving on, he has an important footnote that gives some more context about this information. So he notes this: Ugbaru the Mede was the name of the conquering general and initial governor of Babylon according to the Nabonidus Chronicle, while Gubaru was the name of the official who subsequently ruled Babylon. Although unknown, it is hypothesized that Darius might have been a title or throne name for the governor ruling Babylon, and the Mede specified where he originated from and served to distinguish him from Darius the Persian, king of the empire. In the ancient times, 62 years old was beyond the normal life expectancy and would not be surprising if this official only lived a few more years. He goes on to say, one of the most important texts of the time, the Cyrus Cylinder, affirms the capture of Babylon without a battle, stating that Cyrus was ordered to march against his city Babylon. Without any battle, he made him enter his town Babylon, sparing Babylon any calamity. Regardless of the identity of the mysterious Darius the Mede, multiple ancient documents agree with the narrative in the book of Daniel concerning the fall of Babylon to the Persians without a battle and the slaying of the king in Babylon. So yet again, we see that the book of Daniel records important details accurately and is corroborated by secular sources and archaeology as well as knowing more important details that other early sources failed to mention, like Belshazzar. If you didn't see my first video on this subject, I highly recommend you watch it, as that video shows how Daniel chapter 5 is illuminated through archaeological evidence and gives more context to this video. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I do a lot of different subjects on this channel, not just archaeology. And so if you guys like this kind of content, keep letting me know and I'll make sure to keep it on as a regular kind of, I'm making playlists of different subjects. So if you like the archaeology stuff, I'm going to have a playlist for that and regularly do them. And make sure to check out my other videos and let me know what you guys would like to see and what questions you have. And I think that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you did like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, as it lets me know I'm doing a good job and gives me motivation to keep making these videos. All right, until next time, I'll see you guys later.